Top story, everyone. Tim Cook's sneak peek into the Apple product vault. Last night, the tech giant CEO took the stage at All Things Digital, its conference, All Things D, and as expected, he was a bit tight-lipped about product specifics, but we can say that don't expect a pair of Apple glasses. So, no Apple on your eyes, but apparently Cook did give some small hints about, well, your wrist, potentially some big products, noting that the wrist is, quote, interesting as well as the television. But it's all this talk, and we're asking whether or not it's too little or too late for Apple. After all, shares are down about 30% since its last product announcement, a sign, clear sign, Apple needs to keep the products coming. Here to talk all things Apple is our panel of experts. Our closer, Barry Ritholtz, CEO and Director of Research at Fusion IQ, founder of the Boy Genius Report, Jonathan Geller, and Bloomberg senior West Coast correspondent, John Ehrlichman. So good to have all you here. First, over to you, your sense of whether or not they're really going to come out with something big. Are we going to see a watch on our wrists in the next year?
I think eventually, yes, we will see a watch. I don't know if it's in the next year. He was very receptive to this wearable computing type of category, but it's Apple. We're not going to know until it's actually launched and they're ready to come out with it.
But the fact that he's telegraphing this early, is that in part a response to the difficulty that the stock has faced?
You know, I don't know. I think that they're very obviously sensitive of that. But again, Steve Jobs, when he went to All Things D, would drop nuggets about different industries he wanted to take over. For instance, TV. He was very vocal about his disdain for current TV.
That hasn't entirely fully happened yet.
It hasn't, but they're obviously working on it. But they're definitely looking at wearables, and I'm sure it will not be a glasses type of thing.
John Ehrlichman, if it's not glasses, if it is in fact a wristwatch of some sort, what do you think the timeline might be on something like that?
Well, you know, I don't know how much they have to do to take it to that next step. You know, I already will put my my iPad Nano on my wrist with, you know, a little thing that you can buy to put it on there. So it's actually not that. I think that the bigger, you know, question for them is how do they integrate it with everything else? You know, I think Tim Cook used the word magic at one point yesterday when he was talking about when you can find devices that sort of all seem like they're in different areas, and you can find that one device that ties everything back together, and that's what they're looking for. So the word magic is a better word than interesting, as you pointed out in your lead to this segment, because I was joking with Emily Chang. You know, he says interesting a lot, and he's not showing us a lot. So are we losing interest from that word interesting? Because we were waiting to see something.
You know, he needs some magic because the earnings are down 10% this year. So,
there you go.
You know, we need some serious new products. And by the way, I just want everyone to recognize that we have two blockbuster guests here today. Trish, from Barry Ritholtz right here to my right, you've got, what, 1 million plus views, or 100 million plus views on your website.
Yeah, more than that. But it's been there around for 100 years.
And Jonathan,
so it's not as impressive as it sounds.
Trish, when I told, and John Ehrlichman, I know you're jealous because you're a tech geek at heart. When I told people, when I tweeted out that we had Jonathan Geller, Boy Genius himself, on set, people were sending me tweets saying that guy is Mr. Apple. So I just want everybody to know this is an all-star.
And I'm back.
And you are back from Italy.
So let's jump right in and talk about Apple for a minute, because there are a lot of things that people forget. You know, people are upset the stock is down 30%. This is a stock that's run 9,000%, literally over 9,000%, to become the biggest market cap company in the world.
Too much too soon?
Well, it just screamed upwards for so long. And the other thing to remember, we've gone 2 quarters without a new Apple product. Right. We used to wait years in between for Apple products. So we've really become spoiled. When you look at the profits Apple is capturing in the mobile space, when you look at how many iPads are being sold versus the competition, people are talking about Apple like, well, their best years are behind them. It's a little early to put Apple in the same category as Microsoft.
Jonathan, is he right?
Just to add to that, I mean, yes, he's right. And also, Apple refreshed their entire product lineup in basically December, their last quarter of the fiscal year. So we've actually never gone this long without seeing a new Apple product. So you have that, you have the fall cycle for the iPhone, fall cycle for the iPad. And again, this is a company that is making so much money. If you look at another, you know, tech company or internet company like Amazon, you know, their revenue is great, but they have 0 profit. Apple might be down a little bit in terms of their revenue, but they're still making a boatload of money every single quarter.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you look at Google and Android, they give Android away for free. So I guess it's free, but they make it up on volume. In theory, they have a foot foothold in mobile search, but I use Google on my
So
iPhone.
you think it's a fair valuation?
They actually make more money on the iPhone,
iPhone
than they do on Android.
Absolutely.
Fair valuation?
More
Or
money
less.
on.
I mean, the growth is slowed is the key. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
The problem that we run into with Apple, when it was pricey on a P basis, it was growing really fast. Now it's a fairly mature company. You back out cash, it's a 10 or a 9 PE, but the law of big numbers has come in. You can't grow fast when you're the biggest company in the world. Just the math prevents you from doing that.
Jonathan, based upon your research, and again, you're one of these guys who does all your own channel checks, and you talk to people that most of us don't have access to. When you talk to these types of people, what do they tell you about the possible appeal of a watch or something else that's wearable?
I mean, look, this is obviously the next category that is going to be very, very big in tech. It already is very, very big as far as, Fitbit and all these, types of fitness tracking devices. How many times a day do you reach into your pocket to look at your smartphone? And having something on your person in a very, very non-threatening type of, way, I think is definitely very big.
So compare that with the glasses, and I'm curious to get John's perspective on this too. But first, Jonathan, the idea of a watch versus, say, Google Glasses.
Look, to me, it's way more socially acceptable for you to wear a watch with something on it than something physically
They're
on
a
your
little weird.
face. They're weird, they're off-putting. There's places that are banning them already. I think there are some vertical industries where it makes, very much sense. The medical industry, for instance, is a great area, a great field to have this thing on your face. But again, watch is where it's at to me with Apple if they do something, or maybe they have something that isn't a watch, but it's not going to be obtrusively on your face.
Like what?
Maybe, Tim Cook alluded to sensors being very important. Maybe it combines the phone with something else that can then capture this information. And it might not even be a dedicated watch or, a peripheral like that.
Hey, John Ehrlichman, your sense of the watch versus the glasses, what might ultimately be the better seller for people? Do you agree with Jonathan?
Well, I think that for Google, there is a huge advantage to having that new product out right now and in the hands of developers so that they can go out and explore and see if it is good for the medical industry, see what it could be possible for. And the Google versus Apple stock story is parallel with the Google versus Apple product story. I mean, as people piled out of Apple shares, they piled into Google stock. And, you guys talked to all the big names on Wall Street. Ask a few of them. Did you sell Apple and buy Google? I mean, the chart would suggest that that's what happened over the last few months. And then on the product side, you've got everybody waiting for the next big thing from Apple. And to steal a line from Samsung, maybe the next big thing's already here with Google. By having those glasses in the hands of developers, Apple benefited tremendously by catering to those developers, giving something they could get excited about. Google learned quickly, they caught up with Android, and now they are trying to push their way ahead with Google Glass.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thanks so much to the whole panel. Jonathan from Boy Genius reports, and Bloomberg's very own John Ehrlichman. Good to see you. Barry, you're sticking with us.
Yes.
Top story, everyone.